About 40 kilometres northeast from Canberra is a lake called Lake George. Googling Lake George, you'll find yourself reading different stories about its strange existence.
This is Lake George, about 25 miles north of Canberra. It could be the biggest natural lake in New South Wales, but it can also be the smallest. It's got a tendency to damage its reputation a bit by disappearing every now and then.
The lake can seemingly disappear for years at a time, turning into a grazing field for the wildlife. It's also a place where spiritual dance festivals are held. The lake is about 6 metres deep and can reach over 7 metres high. It used to be a popular place for the locals to take their boats and hang out. In the 1950s and 1960s, it was popular with yacht clubs taking advantage of the windy conditions here. Since 1949, 13 people have died in this lake. It was July 8, 1956, in the middle of winter, when a boat capsized from a sudden gust of wind, killing 5 cadets. 4 drowned and the other died from the extremely cold temperature of the water, according to the coroner's inquest. The water temperature was said to be close to freezing. All 5 men were under the age of 20. Just 2 years later, in January, 6 cadets were in a 12-foot skiff when a violent gust of wind capsized their boat about 6 p.m, leaving only 1 survivor. The lake suddenly turned into a choppy sea with waves 4 to 5 feet high. It killed a family of 4. So what makes this lake strange and mysterious to some people? Perhaps it's the stories you read online, like when the lake goes down, a lake in New Zealand goes up. But these stories are just that, stories. Lake George is dangerous. It may seem shallow to some, with some areas being a max of around 6 metres deep. But it's the waves and the unpredictable gust of wind that can capsize large boats that makes it a death trap. When I visited, it seemed very calm with just a slight breeze. The water can also reach a temperature low enough to cause hypothermia, which can quickly lead to death. Lake George is called an endorheic lake, which means it doesn't have outflow to other external bodies of water. The lake relies on heavy rainfall to fill the basin, which in return becomes a lake. The water disappears by evaporation, but perhaps the reason Lake George might be considered mysterious is even after heavy rainfall, it can remain completely empty for years. Or the fact that even after becoming very full of water, it all completely disappears within a very short time.
During the lake's history, numerous reasons have been given for its mysterious fluctuations, but a seminar in Canberra last year said without doubt evaporation was the cause.
Lake George is considered one of the saltiest bodies of water in inland New South Wales. The local Indigenous people named it Wiriwa, which means bad water, referring to the dangerous amount of salt for human and animal consumption. Lake George is beautiful when it's, well, a lake, but it's not somewhere I'd be keen on swimming or doing any sort of water activities on.
The people most worried about the disappearing lake are the fishermen and the speedboaters. The speedboaters in particular, because they're not allowed on Lake Burley Griffin in Canberra.